The 2017 regular season has finally come to an end, and our Kansas City Royals are sitting at 88-74, which is usually a record that, maybe gets you a wild card. Maybe you missed the wild card by like 1 or 2 games, maybe 3 games, but not in our case. The AL Central is the worst division in the history of divisions, so we won the division. Like, God. Kansas City Royals, 88-74, win the AL Central. Indians 4 games back because they can't do anything. And apparently every single game that I didn't play and simmed, we played well. But I just couldn't play with this team at all in the second half. Once I traded everybody, I'm sure you guys noticed I just lost a bunch of games in a row. And didn't go well for me. I just could not win games with this team. A lot of it happened to do with the bullpen. A lot of it, or there was a couple games where I just got flat out blown out. But most of the ones had to do with like a bullpen blowing a lead late, or just a lead being blown late in general. But apparently in the Sims, we did well. So Royals did just good enough to beat the Indians in the AL Central race. The Indians don't even make the playoffs. And then taking a look at the rest of the divisions, there's the AL East, which is the Boston Red Sox, the Toronto Blue Jays, and the New York Yankees all made the playoffs. Boston won the division, obviously, and then Toronto and New York are the wildcard teams. In the AL West, the Los Angeles Angels ended up separating themselves from the rest of the division as they won the division, and Houston was 6 games back. I believe when we checked into that division on one of the monthly recaps, it was like the last place team was like 3 games back. It was ridiculous. They were all like really close, but obviously the Angels started running away with it in the end, probably because they have Trout, and their team is much better than it has been in the past few years, and then also they have Trout, and how the sim engine in this game works is if you have one good player, they're just like, oh, you're going to start winning games in Sims. In the NL East, you have the Washington Nationals completely ran away with that division. They basically won that division in May, if you're looking at it. I mean, the Phillies were in second place, 32 games back. How was that even possible? I mean, step it up, NL East. NL Central, the Brewers won the division, and the Cubs made the wild card, and in the National League West, the Dodgers won the division, and the Giants are back in the playoffs. And now we're going to take a look at some of the awards and the stats before we go over our playoff series. And then the next episode you will see will be the first elimination game of that playoff series. I'm just doing straight elimination games this year. I'm not showing any other ones. I'm just simming the rest of them and then showing you the elimination games. So, as far as the American League awards go, Aaron Judge, he won the MVP. He stepped up his game even more from last year, had 52 home runs, drove in 125 ribbies. He wins the American League MVP. The American League Cy Young goes to Corey Kluber of the Indians. Apparently, he was one of the people who had a good year on that team, even though they didn't make the playoffs. They only went 84-78. Mookie Betts won the batting title. He hit .342, highest average in the American League. Obviously, that's what the batting title is. He hit 32 home runs as well. Ronald Guzman was Rookie of the Year of the Texas Rangers. He is their first baseman. He hit .280 with 21 home runs. Not too shabby from Guzman. And then just some Gold Gloves to go over. We had one Gold Glove winner. Salvador Perez at catcher won a Gold Glove. And then the Red Sox had 2 Gold Glove winners in the outfield. Jackie Bradley Jr. finally got a center field one. And then Mookie Betts, another right field Gold Glove on top of his batting title. Now taking a look at the National League Awards, you've got the MVP, quite a surprise. Later in his career, not pretty much past his prime, but Ryan Zimmerman wins MVP. 40 home runs at .318, drove in 121 runs for the Nationals. And that's pretty impressive for Ryan Zimmerman. The Cy Young was Madison Bumgarner of the San Francisco Giants. And then the batting title was Rhys Hoskins. He hit .324, highest average in the National League. Somehow wasn't a Colorado Rockies player. It was Rhys Hoskins who also hit 35 home runs. Boone Logan, another surprise, won reliever of the year. He had 49 saves for the Brewers, and then also a 2.09 ERA. So a pretty darn good year for the, finesse lefty out of the bullpen. He's basically a loogie who somehow got a closing job and is able to do well. Tyler Beede won Rookie of the Year of the San Francisco Giants. I don't personally agree with this. This is one of those weird things where MLB The Show always has this, I feel like, with rookies. is they'll give it to, like, I don't know how they decide it, but it's always finicky, because there'll always be, like, a batter who has, like, 30 home runs, but he hits, like, 260, but they'll give it to, like, a pitcher who, in this case, is 11-9 with a close to 5 ERA and 161 strikeouts. So they gave it to him with his close to 5 ERA, but I didn't see, but I can guarantee you there was probably, like, a runner-up with, like, 30 home runs and, like, a 250 average. And then the only Gold Glove we're going to go over in the National League is our boy Lucas Duda. We sent him back to the New York Mets, and he ended up winning a Gold Glove. I didn't think Lucas Duda had it in him, because in fact he really doesn't have it in him, but somehow he won a Gold Glove in the National League. Now taking a look at some of the league leaders around the American League and National League. In the American League, the home run leaders were Aaron Judge, led it with 52, followed by Nelson Cruz with 44. Giancarlo Stanton had 43, Donaldson 42, and then J.D. Martinez and Mike Trout both had 40. Kelvin Herrera had 48 saves, which was third in the American League. Jason Hamill, who we sent to the Yankees, who are in the playoffs as one of the 3 teams in the AL East to make the playoffs, is 4th in the ERA with a 2.88. Danny Duffy for us is 9th in Ks with 190. He is 4th in WHIP with a 1.10 WHIP, and he is 5th in WAR with a 5 WAR. Also, Jake Junis had a good year for us. A 1.15 WHIP is good enough for 8th in the American League. And moving on to the National League, you've got the home run leaders where Anthony Rizzo had 46 home runs, and then followed by him were tied at 40. Paul DeJong, the shortstop of the Cardinals, and then the MVP, Ryan Zimmerman, both had 40. So the home runs were a lot higher in the American League than the National League. After them was a bit of a surprise. Domingo Santana broke out for the Brewers with 38 bombs. Arenado 37, and Travis Shaw, the mayor of Ding Dong City, also a Brewer obviously, had 36 home runs as well. As far as our home runs as a club on the Royals, Moustakas had 29. That was by far the most anybody had in our team. Jorge Soler finished with 16. Bonifacio, Gordon, and Perez all had 15. And then it drops down to 9 with Whit Merrifield. Lucas Duda would have been in that mix somewhere, but he got traded, obviously. And as far as just the rest of our bats, how they did, Jorge Soler was probably our best all-around bat. 287 average, 356 OBP. He had an 820 OPS with the 464 slugging. Bonifacio had an 810 OPS. He got his average up to 272. His OBP was only 338, so once he gets that OBP up, once he starts getting on base, once he starts walking more, he's going to be a pretty deadly hitter, because he had an 810 OPS with really not that good of an OBP. Moustakas finished with an 808 OPS. Alex Gordon definitely improved in the past couple seasons offensively with a 738, hopefully going to boost his trade value up a bit. I mean, he's not going to get the biggest trade value bump because he is older. He's not a prime player, but hopefully we can get maybe a B potential prospect for him in the offseason, because like I've said multiple times, we are definitely trading him in the offseason to open up some outfield spots. Whit Merrifield definitely improved on his first couple months. He was absolutely atrocious through April, May, and even June, but he finished with a 280 average, 325 OBP, a 720 OPS. 280 average, definitely pretty impressive. He's never going to be a guy who's going to get on base a lot, so I mean 325 is pretty good for Merrifield. And then Ramon Torres has pretty much just won the starting shortstop job. I don't feel like I need to go out and sign a shortstop or go out and look for or trade for one. I don't feel like I need to do that in the offseason because Ramon Torres played pretty darn well. He had a 290 average with a 357 OBP in 207 at-bats. And then he was also showing off the leather left and right in episodes. The guy is pretty darn good, and I'm confident he's able to be our shortstop at least for next year, if not until multiple prospects are going to be ready at that position. And then John Jay definitely had a down second half of the year. He finished with a 338 OBP, and I mean, honestly, that's probably the deciding factor in if I bring him back or not. He's probably not going to be brought back as our stopgap center fielder next year because we're probably going to have Khalil Lee be our starting center fielder in 2020, but the upcoming season is 2019, and we want a stopgap at that position for a year, so I'm probably going to sign a center fielder for a one-year contract. And then Salvador Perez puts us in a bit of a sticky spot. He's definitely getting re-signed, but he's going to want a lot of money. It's unfortunate because he's just not hitting at all for us. He's just not. He hit a few home runs, 15 home runs, but he had a 667 OPS. Not good at all. You don't want that. but he did win a Gold Glove. He's basically Martin Maldonado for us, and I don't want him to be Martin Maldonado because he hasn't been Martin Maldonado for most of his career. He's been a good bat and then also a great defensive catcher, but he just hasn't been a good bat for us. Hopefully he can improve upon the next year, and he's going to be costing us a lot of money, but I would be stupid to let him walk, so he's going to be being re-signed in the offseason. And then Hunter Dozier, not the best second half for us. He took over at first base once I traded Duda. He only hit 4 home runs, 655 OPS, and 185 at-bats, but I'm still confident he's going to be able to improve upon that. His vision and discipline definitely both aren't the highest stats, but I feel like he's going to be able to hit a few home runs for us in a full season. So I'm going to see how he can do with us when he plays for a full season for us. So he's still a part of the plan for next season. And then as far as the pitchers goes, you've already seen Duffy and Junis. So Nate Karns had 167 strikeouts and 164 innings. That's a 4.5 ERA. He had a pretty good year, but he's probably not going to be brought back next year. He's just blocking a spot for a younger or a different guy I can sign as like a stopgap. Jesse Hahn, 79.1 innings pitched, 3.86 ERA. He got called up once we traded a couple pitchers at the deadline. Matt Harvey in 61 innings pitched. He had a 46 strikeouts and 4.28 ERA. ERA is not too bad. But it's definitely just depressing to see what's happened to Matt Harvey. He could be our 5th starter next year, or he could be like our 6th or 7th, like the 1st or 2nd guy they called up from AAA. It depends on what happens in the offseason. And then in the bullpen, I'm not sure if these stats are wrong, or if for whatever reason the AI when you sim games doesn't use like your setup guys, because my setup guys have an absurdly low amount of games. Justin Grimm only pitched 33 in 3rd innings. I could have sworn he had more than that, but according to the game, he doesn't. Struck out 38 in those innings, and he had a 2.97 ERA. Luke Hochshaver pitched 61 in the 3rd with a 3.23 ERA. He was just the guy to have on a roster this year. I doubt he's going to be back for next year. Brian Flynn was the lone lefty. Definitely not impressive. Definitely going to be getting a different lefty in our pen next year. He had 63 innings with a 3.86 ERA. Brandon Maurer is definitely the most confusing one, because he was our other setup guy, and he only pitched 15 and 2/3 innings. Like, what? I could have sworn he had more than that, but I guess not. So, I don't know what the deal is with AI and pitching setup guys in the sim games, because clearly they don't. In 162-game seasons, you're only going to pitch him 15 and 2/3 innings. And then Burch Smith had a good year for us at the pen as well. He had 63 innings pitched with a 2.43 ERA. But he's probably not going to be in the bullpen next year, even though he had a good year for us. He was just kind of a guy to throw in there because we don't really have anybody else, and we definitely need to improve upon that bullpen. So now taking a look at what our rotation and bullpen and lineups are going to look like heading into this playoff series. Our rotation is going to be Duffy, Junis, Karns, and Hahn 1-4. Harvey moves to the bullpen as a long reliever with Sessa, and then the middle relievers are Flynn, Hochshaver, Jewell, Smith. Setups are Maurer and Grimm, and then closer is Herrera. And then, as far as our lineups go against righties, it's Jay in center, Moose at 3rd, Soler in right, Bonifacio in right, Soler DHing, Gordon in left, Perez catching, Dozier first base, Merrifield second base, shortstop Torres. Against lefties, it's Jay, Moose, Soler, Bonifacio. Dozier moves up, Gordon moves down, then Perez, Merrifield, and Torres. Just a bit of a different mix there because Dozier has a lot of power against lefties. And then as far as who we're playing, we are playing the Los Angeles Angels, the team we traded Alcides Escobar to, and their lineups against righties are Andrelton Simmons at shortstop, Kinsler at second, Trout in center, Upton in left, I believe, Cozart, Valbuena, Schimpf is DHing, Chris Young, and then Martin Maldonado. And then against lefties, it's Simmons, Alcides Escobar, Trout, Upton, Cozart, Young, Kinsler, Valbuena, and Maldonado. Their rotation is Garrett Richards, Shohei Ohtani, Andrew Heaney, Tyler Skaggs, and then Alex Meyer. And then in their bullpen, they really only have just like a shutdown closer in Blake Parker, who had a ton of saves for them, but they don't really have any other weapons in their bullpen. So that's pretty much going to wrap things up here for this end of season recap plus playoff preview episode. So the next episode you will see will be an elimination game in this Royals-Angels series, and then depending on if we win it to move on or lose it to get knocked out, you'll be either seeing the off-season after that or you'll be seeing more playoffs. So it all depends on what happens. So we'll see you for the next episode of Royals. I've been your host, Jerseyborn, and I'm saying goodbye.
Always lying got me stressing. Tell me why you keep me guessing. I wish I'd learned my lesson, but I wanted you. Yeah, I wanted you. I must have been high when I met you. Out of my mind when I decided to love you.